Welcome to That Game Show, the awkward, inappropriate, random podcast that occasionally talks about games.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to That Game Show. I am Chase Bunker, joined as always with Kyle Helmstetter, who I had to stop 3 times before we actually got a relatively decent intro off. Because again, while we haven't recorded in a few months, I don't want to look at it.
It's been a while.
Your interrupting game's still on point, and I hate it.
Well, I figured after 3 times I have to let you get the full intro in. Otherwise, at that point, it's just not a funny bit. It's just a habit.
Well,
I'm not a habitable person.
It's one of those where I keep saying, like, hey, we need to get like a decent intro. And he's like, all right, yeah, cool. And then as soon as I go with he just chimes in with like either a song and dance or he's dropping swear words that I have to bleep out. And so for the YouTube algorithm, that would just shut it down immediately, as if YouTube doesn't do that already to us.
I don't think it would be that bad. I would say in terms of like top 5 podcasts in Greece that don't use like swear words, we are number 1 because there's no chance that other podcasts don't use swear words. We are good about that.
We are good about that for the most part, especially for our Greek audience out there. That we are very sorry we haven't put out an episode in a long time. We praised the Greek people. We thanked them for putting us in the top 150, and we returned the favor by not recording in 4 months.
Might be longer than that, actually.
I'm saying really 4 months because I don't want to think about it even longer. We've been incredibly busy. Kyle was planning and then did get married, which was a lot of fun. We could talk about that in a future episode. Yep, flex that ring on him. Which, by the way, if this is the audio audience, he was showing a ring. There you go. I pretty much
my ring.
Yeah,
they put a ring on it.
He did put a ring on it. It was a lot of fun. I gave a speech that a lot of people said was relatively mediocre, and so I thought there was gonna be more hockey people there. Turns out, no.
It was 2 tables of hockey.
2 tables.
Two tables.
That speech was good for 2 tables, essentially.
Out of 16, that's pretty good percentage.
That is not a good percentage. Hold on. Let me do the math right now. 2 out of 16. We're gonna do the math here on the air right now. That is
I don't know if people want to hang around for that.
No, it is a good 12.5%. So out of everybody, that audience, or it was good for 12.5%, enjoyed that speech.
It's not bad.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. Anyway, if you are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this via wherever you get your podcast, thank you so much for being making us a part of your day.
Bingo.
Right now, we're going to be focusing on the Nintendo Switch 2 because it came out. We missed a lot of things. We'll give our game of the year in the next episode, the next 2 episodes, because it gives Kyle time to think of a game that he actually played.
Already that time of year? Wait, it's April. Why are we doing game of the year in April?
We always do our games of the year late. For our 2024 game of the year, we always do it late because everybody else does it in December. We wait,
I know.
Get that all the way. Bam, there's us.
It messes me up, though, because I'm like, what year am I picking game? Like, did I play anything in 2024 anymore? I don't even know.
I don't even know
Maybe I played it all in 2025. I'm not even positive anymore. Does 2025 count? Maybe.
Nope, gotta be in 2024.
Boy.
Yeah, that's so we'll give Kyle some time to think about that. So, Kyle, I want to ask you, did you watch the Nintendo Switch Direct?
I'm gonna blow your mind here, but I did.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I did. I not only that, I watched the one before it too that was all about the Pokemons.
All about the Pokemons, and then all the farming simulators and all that.
Saw that too. I was a little bit intrigued by that, but I saw that too.
Yes. So there's a lot of opinions on it. There's good, there's bad. So we're gonna start off with the good. Kyle, I want you to tell me at least like what were some of like the good things that stood out to you on this?
For the Switch 2, I'm taking it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just want to confirm because I'm like the game. Like, are we talking about the games? We're talking about the console.
I mean, anything Switch 2. Anything Switch 2. It doesn't have to be just the console. It could be the games. It could be the presenters.
The presenters were good. I'm going to talk the console itself though. I think that they've made some improvements. In my opinion, they learned from the Wii U Wii fiasco, which was, kind of forcing the Wii U in there. They were like, oh yeah, we're in a big setting, man. Sequels, it's got to be the move. And then we obviously saw what happened. It was a terrible selling console. It was not really optimized for really anything. It played the same. The only benefit I would say that the Wii U offered from the Wii was probably the inclusion of the HDMI ports, which, if you recall correctly, the Wii did not feature.
Correct.
So that was one of those like, okay, I guess that's a good thing. The Switch 2 seems to have learned in at least some regards. I think they did a good job with the removal of the magnetic like strip that they had on there for the console to connect with the controllers. Not a great quality of life change, but it is an improvement. The inclusions of the micro UBCs or the UBC USB-C ports rather.
Mhm.
Having two of them is kind of nice.
Yeah.
The ability, I don't really remember if there's a lot of storage increase on the Switch 2. I do know that it says it plays both physical and digital copy games. So that's another nice thing. The only thing I'd say bad about the Switch is that you really only can play like a very limited amount of good games virtually or digitally rather, because the storage is pretty insignificant for storing some of the actually good games.
Yeah, so for
I
context, by the way, the storage is 256 gigs. The Switch OLED version is 64, and the just base Switch is 32. So continue.
No, but that's good input. Wow, great input. Wow, you are on point today. That was very nice. Great inclusion. You've been working on your game today, haven't you?
I try my best to be prepared when it comes to every episode,
Mm,
and
fantastic.
yeah, I have pages upon pages up.
I think the audience should appreciate that one. It was a great segue, right? A smooth, like buttery, this velvet right there. Just drop that like 256 money. But on that inclusion, yeah, no, I mean that is a significant quality of life update when you think about it. Because how many games nowadays end up being virtual? Or I keep saying virtual, digital rather. Being able to play some of those games that were not marketed as Switch exclusives, Nintendo exclusives, we saw like Skyrim, for instance. We joke about it being played on the Switch, but that was an inclusion that at one point you got to be like, I would if the game fit on the device, but it kind of won't, or it will, but barely. So 256 is a major quality of life improvement to actually broaden how many games you can have in your library at one time. So I thought we knew it was coming. I really hope the software actually holds up from a hardware standpoint and that we get these games that are Nintendo exclusives that do not run at 20 frames per second. Because I swear to God, if I play the Pokemon games again and I'm seeing them run at 15, I'm gonna have to scream and commit a felony because I'm so freaking over it at this point.
Yeah, that's something that they definitely worked on because I mean, granted, the Switch 2 is, or excuse me, the Nintendo Switch is 8 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about now.
It's
The
true.
the max frame rate they have is 120 frames per second. They for the Switch OLED and the base, it's 60 frames a second. I'd be very surprised if any of them actually reached 60 frames a second because I feel like the
Mm.
Switch, especially now towards the tail end, just a lot of things just don't run properly on it. Like I'm facing like the conundrum of, all right, do I buy this for the Switch or do I buy it for the PS5? And eventually I just go, all right, I'm just going to do the PS5 because I know it's just going to run better. I'm not going to have the slowdown issue. I'll focus on the hardware and then we'll talk about games coming up. And then we'll get into the negative. The hardware definitely looks a lot more impressive. The
Mm.
magnetic choice was very interesting, but then I started reading more on it, and a lot of people were saying like these are good. Like you don't need to worry about them like sliding off or anything. You hit the release button, it goes off. Like they're very strong and they're not going anywhere, which is really cool. The mouse feature I thought was really interesting because I'm not certain like how that's going to go just in a home setting. I'm curious to see how it goes. I mean, they made a whole game essentially based on that with a
Yeah.
drag drive. So I'm curious to see how that goes. I think also with Metroid Prime 4, you're also going to be able to use that mouse feature. So you kind of have I don't want to say the mouse and keyboard feel, but it is probably the closest a console is going to that have with the mouse and keyboard without actually like getting one. The storage was big. I know that one of the big downfalls or the big negatives with the PlayStation 5 was its 500 gig storage. I had to get an SD card for my Switch, and that seems to make things a lot better. Um, of course, there's the backwards compatibility, which Nintendo had to get that done. Nintendo
They had to.
they
Had to do it.
they've been my problem with Nintendo. This isn't one of the negatives, but it's going to definitely sound like it. Is that Nintendo has this ability of making features sound futuristic while also being just standard norms. They're like, oh, this is backwards compatible, and it's like, good. The PS5 is
Could be.
backwards compatible. The PS4, well, I think that was the only one that really wasn't, but like the 3 and the 2 are all backwards compatible. Like Xbox, it's the same way. Like you did it for the Wii, and then you kind of got rid of it a little bit. But like
Xbox was
Xbox,
questionable with their backwards
Xbox, like
compatibility.
it's certain games, but their
Very certain.
option was still there, and
They
so
did feature some. I give you that. I give you that.
yeah. But that roster is growing though. It's not like it's bigger than the online games that the Nintendo GameCube offered. Let's just say that.
True.
And
That's
so
fair.
I look at that and it's like, okay, thank you for what should be the norm. So I think that's something that did impress me. So I'm curious to see how the mouse works. I don't want it to be a feature that just like, hey, it's there, and then they just don't use it. Kind of like how do you remember the Switch Smash Brother, not Smash Brothers, Switch Mario Party feature where like you put all the switches together and you can make a giant board, and just no
Yeah.
one used that technology. I'm afraid the mouse technology might be that.
You're right, though. That's exactly what it's. They always, if you think back on everything Nintendo has done for a console, they've always had some gimmicky, weird thing that just makes it them. Like you look at it, and you're like, oh, that's a Nintendo feature. Like seriously, go back as far as you can. If you go to their handhelds, the Nintendo DSi featured a kind of a rumble mechanic where you could shake it and that would influence games. You want to know how many games actually featured that? Very, very few. They tried, they really did, but it just was one of those things where you're like, what am I like? Am I really enjoying this? A lot of the touchpad things, you're kind of like, oh, the touchpad's super cool. Am I really using it? The games that actually tried to use it, you're kind of like, I don't know about this. This is a little bit, it's not my favorite. It's a quality thing, I guess, but like I could super also go without it. They've always had these little things that they try to throw in there that are supposed to be the boom. This is like the magic part about it. And to be honest with you, now that you mention it, it kind of tries to cater a little bit toward like the comparison to the Steam Deck, because in fairness, the comparison now to the Switch 2 would be the Steam Deck. Those are the two that are going head to head.
Mhm.
So how do you kind of compete with it? I guess you throw a mouse and keyboard attachment on. Well, rather a mouse attachment onto it.
Well, the big
And see
difference
how that
between the
does.
Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch 2 is that you can put the Switch 2 like as a home console, whereas the
Also
Steam
true.
Deck is just mostly handheld. If you want it to be quote home
Also true.
console, you need a gaming PC.
That is a fair part too.
So, speaking of games now, let's shift over to the game category because they did announce a lot of games that are going to be coming out day of. They also announced games that are going to be coming out later on in the future. What games stood out to you? Like, give me your top 3 games.
Oh, top 3 games. I will be honest with you. I know that people expect me to say Mario Kart here. I just can't really say I'm that impressed with it from a global standpoint. I feel like it's just Mario Kart at this point. Like everything that I saw from it, yeah, sure, it's got a little bit open world and all these things, but it's still Mario Kart. Like, am I gonna enjoy it? Sure, maybe in a party platform, but like, I don't know. If you wanted my top 3 games, I would say my time at Evershine, or Evershine rather. That one is interesting. I don't really know what I'm exactly expecting with it, but it does seem very ambitious. It the world seemed to look pretty dang good for all things considered, so I thought that was a pretty good looking title. Um, from there, I mean, I don't know if I can count. Do you count Pokemon ZA as? It's not a Switch 2 exclusive. It's going to be released for the Switch
No,
and
I,
then
I think
Switch
I
2.
think you can still count it. Like it was something that was announced, and I think that that's tough to say because yeah, they did announce it in that direct that the week
Yeah.
prior. So, but I think still for the Switch too, you could probably still get enjoyment out of it. I think you can count it still.
All right, I would throw that somewhere in there just because I'm interested in the series to see how they follow up Legends of Arceus with this title. Is it going to be a flop? Is it going to be a hit? That's a 50-50 shot, to be completely frank with you. I'm not really sure where I sit on this one. I've tried to avoid spoilers because I do want to go into it with a completely fresh mind, like I did with Arceus, which was
Yeah.
a really fun experience. I've seen tiny bits, and I've avoided most of the megas and all that stuff. So I would put it up there as an exciting title for me. I just, again, I praise that this is not, and I should rectify my statement earlier because I did blame the Switch console for the hardware problems and for the frames problems. This is also a Game Freak problem. They do not optimize their games very well. It should not all be on the Switch because let's be real, you have to create your games and mindset for what you have. So hopefully by going from Switch to Switch 2, they don't just use the same coding that puts us right back in our problem. So I'm praying on that. The third one, I guess I'd say Mario Kart. Again, it's not that impressive, but a 24-person race is kind of fun. I just wasn't all that impressed with some of the other titles. Like they looked okay. Yokai Replay or Replayly. It's an enhanced version of a previous
Wait, are you talking about Yuka
2016?
Replay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I call it yokai, didn't I?
yeah, you called it yokai. I'm like, wait, which one is this?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, ukulele or
Yuka.
yuka, which is
Yeah.
ukulele, but yuka replay. Yeah,
Yes.
like my thing. So I liked the idea of Mario Kart World, but a lot of people kept calling it like Mario Kart Forza because there's a lot of like Forza
Mhm,
comparisons to it.
mhm,
I'm a bit skeptical always when it comes to open world racing games because I
mhm.
remember Burnout Paradise did it and I
Oh,
hated it.
no.
Because I'm just like, this, what's the point of this? Like, just give me the list, take me through it, and then I'm good from there. So I wasn't a fan of that.
Yep.
That's not to say like I hate it. I thought it was cool. Also, you can play as Moo Moo. I'm entirely down for that. Some of the other games that I really liked, I really was interested about Dusk Bloods, because which was the new
Okay.
FromSoft game. It be mostly because of the fact that a lot of people I don't think realize this. When Bloodborne was announced for the PlayStation 4, that moved consoles. And I think
Yeah.
Duskbloods might do the same. Now, I think some people think it might be the spiritual successor to Bloodborne. I don't believe it is. I think that report kind of nixed that idea, but it looks really interesting. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest FromSoft fan, but I do enjoy their games, and they do put out a good quality games, especially with Night Rain coming out later this year.
Hmm.
This
I like my win.
it definitely tweaked my curiosity. Uh, Donkey Kong Bonanza.
You mentioned that. I actually was looking at that one earlier, and I
Mhm.
thought that was an interesting title too. It looked great, actually.
Yes, it looks fantastic. I saw that and I was like, holy crap! It looked like Donkey Kong 64 meets Red Faction because it looks like you
Mhm.
can destroy almost anything, and I'm really excited about that. I'm curious to see like how they evolve that, and I don't know who is. Obviously, I know Nintendo's behind it. I don't know if it's like the Odyssey people or who else is going to be on it. Uh, the one that kind of caught my eye was Kirby Air Riders, and I never played Kirby's Air Ride, but the fact that it's Masahiro Sakurai behind it, the guy behind Super Smash Brothers, that's what kind of piqued my interest a little bit. It's like, okay, what do you have up your sleeve?
I'm curious, and it's great you mentioned it because I'm curious on it too, from the standpoint of like, is this going to be which Smash Bros are we getting? I will say Smash Bros. Brawl, the Subspace Emissary, mint, great storyline. And you can
Yes,
hate Brawl all you want, but that storyline was really
that
good.
storyline was a lot of fun.
was really good, and the dual player on it, they did a good job with it.
Mhm.
But then you go to fast forward. I don't really know how I felt about that storyboard layout that you had for Smash Bros. What would it be
Ultimate.
called? Ultimate. A little bit underwhelming. So, which one are we getting?
Yeah. That's a good point. And I mean, granted, I never played Kirby's Air Ride, but there really isn't a plot when it comes to racing games. Granted, a lot of fighting games have kind of a sub like a subpar plot anyway.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of curious as to like, hey, what characters are we going to be getting? Because I know that you're going to be getting obviously Kirby universe, but like, how far are we going to stretch this now?
yeah, yeah. We also get Hyrule Warriors: The Age of Imprisonment.
That looks good. We
It
also
is. It's a prequel
It's a
to.
it's a
to-
prequel to Tears, I believe.
Okay.
I
Okay.
believe this is after Breath before Tears.
I thought so. So
Um
hard to kind of track their timeline sometimes.
I'm glad that they're adding the GameCube now. I think some of the titles that they added to their Nintendo Switch Online, they added the GameCube games. Some of them Soul Calibur 2, which I loved, F-Zero GX, which I absolutely loved.
Mm.
Uh Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. I was surprised that they added Chibi Robo. And that kind of got me really excited because the fact that like they're not sticking with a lot of like the hardcore like the hey, we obviously need to put this in. They're putting in Chibi Robo, which I don't believe did well in the States. I could be mistaken, which also gives my hopes up that we could see Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg in the future.
Chase Bunker.
What is up, everybody? It's that game show.
I'm not going to lead with that as the intro.
Kyle Helmstetter.
Soft.
This is That Game Show.
Okay, so now we've said the good stuff that got us excited about the Nintendo Switch 2. It's time
It's
for us
time.
to address the elephant in the room, and
Yeah.
that is the price. Right now,
Yeah.
we're not like this is prior to any tariffs. We're not going to get political here. We're just going to say
Good
there's a
call.
possibility of the price going up. But as of right now, the base version of the Nintendo Switch 2 is $450. There's also a bundle with Mario Kart World for $500. They've also talked about Mario Kart World being $80 and also games in the future costing $80. Kyle, I want to ask you
Uh,
this with the price. First off, I want to get your thoughts on the price before we move forward about should we get this or not. Just give me your thoughts as when you heard not only that it's going to be a $500 console, but also that your games going forward are also going to be costing more.
so the console itself is one thing. And I'm glad you kind of made the discrepancy between the two because they are very different in my opinion. The console, it's expensive. Is it worth it? Tough to say. Honestly, the way I've always viewed things is if the worth comes from the games, then the games have to be the worth it. And I know it sounds a little bit weird, but the reality is like if you let's use the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S or whatever it's called as your comparisons. When they come out, are they worth it? When they first come out, no, they're not, because there's never any games that you look at, you're like, this has got to be the one. Because most times they're released for the previous system as well, and you say, unless the hardware is that up to date, probably just gonna roll my dice with what I got. That's fine. The fact of the matter is at 450, that's one thing. $80 though for the games, and Nintendo's notorious for not doing sales. So that's gonna be $80 pretty much year round. I don't know. I really don't think it is worth it, to be honest with you. I love the hardware upgrades. I love the storage upgrades. I love what they've done with it. And for a family console, it's okay. But I think that they've kind of missed the beat with the price upgrades from the digital side of things.
Yes. I
I don't
think
know.
I think right now I'm going to preface it with this because I know Nintendo fans are a very dedicated fan base. They like defending their console. So I'm going to preface this by saying I owned a Super Nintendo, a Nintendo 64. I fought hard for the GameCube during that time. I own a Wii. I don't own a Wii U, but I own a Switch. So I practically owned every console, almost every console that Nintendo made. You mentioned the sales part, which is they don't do sales. And let
No,
me
they don't.
rephrase that by saying this. Their first party titles, their quote sales are $10 off. They're sometimes 20 if we're lucky. And that's why it was a surprisingly big deal when I saw for Black Friday Super Mario Odyssey being $30. I said in a previous episode that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze should not be $60 for a game that came out, which is now 8 years ago. It came out in 2017. Breath of the Wild, it is a great game. It should not be $60 now. That's the thing that Nintendo has an issue with. Nintendo is not consumer friendly. Nintendo
No.
has a welcome tour that costs $10. For context, by the way, PlayStation for the PS5 Astro's Playroom came with the game and it showed off all the features for free. This was a free game. As soon as you boot up your PS5, there it is. I don't know what it is about Nintendo. Nintendo has this very weird thing about them where they get a big ego and then they have a faulty console and then it crashes down into oblivion and they have to come up with another idea that's great. They get an ego and then it goes down. It was the 64, they shot up. Then there was the GameCube, which had nothing
Wii.
in comparison. They didn't have the online play that they said, oh, we don't need the online play. They didn't have the DVD player when they said, oh, we don't need the DVD player. What happened? That shot down. Almost ruined the company. And so they had to go with Project Revolution, which was the Nintendo Wii, one of the best selling consoles ever. So what happened? Hey, let's make, we need to get an HDMI version and let's throw in a tablet or whatever. You have to have this. And then the sales were poor. By the way, because I have the Wii U sales up,
Yeah.
because I thought like this could be a Wii U sale like event. The Wii U came out in November. In their first
Yes.
week, they sold 400,000 units. Mind you, that is November. So you had Black Friday, and now coming up, you had the Christmas time. So after Christmas, at the end of the year, they sold 890,000 units. So for 1 week, they made about half as many units, or just under half, as they did for December. Like, I think that's just kind of crazy. And so that
Yeah.
sank. And then you had the Switch, which was this great console. And now I don't there's something about this I just don't like. Not to mention the fact that like the price, by the way, like let's just take it at its base value. Let's just say 450. 450 for a console that can be handheld. Do you know how long the battery life is, by the way?
No, I thought they tried to advertise it as almost. No, I don't know. I'm
So
just gonna
they
say no.
for the Switch, but this is both the Switch One and the OLED version. The average battery life is between 4.5 to 9 hours. The Switch 2, 2 to 6.5 hours. So
Checks out.
you upgrade everything except your battery on a mobile gaming console. So if you're taking this
Yeah.
on a flight, God help you if that flight's longer than an hour, because you're not going to be able to go through it. The games cost now. Now let's go to the price of the games. $80.
Games. That's what kills me personally.
That's-
That's what kills me.
I think that's the part that's just I can't say yes to this. I
And
can't.
that's what that I agree. I
When
mean,
you have your entire stream, your entire chat that just says drop the price, something is wrong with you. Also, Grand Theft Auto 6 has the ability to do the funniest thing ever and just say, hey, I know a lot of people say we're going to charge 100. Actually, it's going to be 40. And just ruin everybody's market and just say,
Hey,
you got to
truly,
shoot it down now because there's your focal
yeah.
point.
The problem, and this I've learned this now. I've been scored so many times, and this is the one thing I'll give Nintendo. They do not release half-assed games. They always do give you the full game. Now, granted, they do their DLCs now because they learned, oh, add-on, that's a moneymaker.
Yep.
We saw it with Pokemon. We've seen it now with Mario Kart. We obviously saw it with Smash Bros. They do their thing now. They learned that, oh, we can just add on. I will say this, though, in comparison to PC gaming, which I've now been a massive proponent for because this big rig right here, I've gotten into PC gaming. And boy, when I say that I buy a AAA title that is not fully done and I want to shoot myself in the foot, do I do it? Did I buy Civ 7 day one? Hell yeah, I did. Did I regret that? Hell yeah, I did. Because that was an incomplete game and it's still not complete. And boy, did I fall for that. Have I fallen for that multiple times up until this point? Yes. Because they release these titles. So this is the one thing I'll give Nintendo. Do they release a full game at the price? Yes. Is it still worth $80? Hell no. Not in the slightest. Not at all. This is the issue with gaming, though. There's a subsect of population that says, I'm not going to buy that for that price. The remaining people will be buying Mario Kart Universe for $80, and then they will say, oh, that was expensive. Yeah, well, you kind of screwed it up for everybody else because why would they not release it at $80? They're going to keep doing this now. Every single game is coming out at $80. They just proved it with all of you that bought it. We will never win this game of chicken with these companies because everybody's going to buy, like, people are still going to buy it. And then they're going to say, why bother with a sale? Okay, well, we'll do a sale for $70. How do you do? Like, this is the problem with all the gaming. The PC gaming just gets scored worse because they release these titles like that suck massively, like not optimized at day one release. Monster Hunter Wilds, loved it. Was it ready for release? Hell no. Did I play it and buy it day one? Yeah. Did it look like a PS2 game at times? Yeah. But that's what makes a new console not worth it, in my opinion. Is I can't drop what ends up being $1,000 for 4 games, the console, the attachments if needed, the controllers if needed. For the Switch too, I don't really know how we're going to be looking.
Right now, it's looking like $80 are also going to be for the Joy-Cons as well. Which, by the way, like we don't know if that's going to these new Joy-Cons are going to be have that same drift issue. Like that's the thing that that's what really affected the Switch is that you see a lot of Joy-Con drift. And if your consoles are expensive as your games, like I'm not a fan of it. Now, granted, I will ask you this. Let's say the games are $60. Same price. You still have $450, $500, but the games are $60. Will you then be more inclined to buy a Switch 2?
So, my loaded answer is no. However, let me put the stipulation on there. That is only because the roster of games that are released is not impressive to me at this time. Also, bearing in mind, again, I've got this rig right here. I can play a majority of the games that are not Nintendo Switch exclusive on this thing. Cyberpunk. That's I mean, that's a big one.
Yes.
The problem is a lot of these games that come out that are not Nintendo's exclusives, I can play on this thing for probably sales that will make it worth it and probably play better because I can mod it. I can not mod it. I can also just play it on my, my screens. It's not a knock on the Switch 2. That's just I have exclusivity in other devices that makes it more worth it. Now, if I have no consoles at all, like I'm day one, I'm fresh, I'm 20 years old, dad gave me, I don't know, $1,000 and said, go wild. Do I decide the Switch 2? Yeah, I could be tempted, I think. I think it's $60 game plus the fact that it kind of comes now. I'm assuming I have a TV, so I'm not having to buy a TV, but I would say it's definitely debatable. nowadays between the Xbox versus PS5 or PlayStation, rather, just in general, they're really the same thing. It really just comes down to where your friends are playing. So if you're the family plan was also I actually like
That
that.
was a good one. I will agree
That
with
was
you on
good.
that.
I should put that in there because that's a big part of it.
I think that was good. I thought the game chat was also very unique, but also when they're like, "Oh, get this camera for $50," and it's like, or you can use another
Yeah.
camera of some kind. So I'm like, okay, let's see how that goes. Um, okay.
We lost him. We lost him, Chad. He's gone.
So
He's dead.
no,
He died. Oh my god.
I'm still here. Like my
Oh.
camera just decided to just like hold on a second.
As far as I'm aware, you're dead. I
Oh,
can't prove that you're not. You could just
no,
be
I'm still here. Like it's just the camera. Luckily, on the video,
What if you're
I'm
a
still
mimic?
good. I am not a mimic.
Prove it.
Do you want me to? What do I have to do to prove it to you that I'm not?
Prove you're not a mimic. What would Chase know that a mimic wouldn't?
30 Seconds to Mars.
It doesn't take 30 seconds to get to Mars, dude. It takes like much more than that.
Finger
You're-
11.
I would not finger 11. I don't think that they need that in their life.
Oh God, what other bands that are just largely associated with me? Oh wait, hold on. I know what to do because here's. Are you gonna
Alright.
play your favorite Starset song by Demons?
Okay, you got me there. Never mind.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
not a mimic.
So for
Haven't heard that song in a minute though. The good news is my
I-
YouTube algorithm is finally free of that, so we're good.
I'm not kidding. I almost requested that song at your wedding, and
I wouldn't have minded it actually.
no, you would have mind. You had enough to drink to where you would have been angry, and I instead went with "Dancing Queen" by ABBA.
Couldn't even remember that, to be honest with you. I was probably far gone at that point.
No, it was so. By the way, for context, because this is a story I think only just you and I know. There was a time whenever we were going on trips, and so Kyle doesn't play from like Amazon Music or Apple Music. He plays it off of YouTube. And
Yes,
so
true.
as we are going to Atlanta, he was playing Pentatonics. He was playing Pentatonics, and the next song was Starset's My Demons. And he's like, I don't
Yeah.
want to listen to this right now. And so he switched to another a cappella group.
Yep.
The next song that played was My Demons. And it was
Yep.
about for every this happened about 6 times where every song afterward was just My Demon. Like that was it. And it just irritated him the entire road trip.
Well, it got worse though, because there was a time we were going to some taco place. I think it was Fuzzy's Tacos.
Yeah.
We were driving in your beat up PT Cruiser, and you put on the radio, and the freaking radio, the next song that came on when we were driving there, I remember we were at the light, and that song came on, and I'm like, you've got to change it. And you start laughing. You're like, why? I'm like, because I'm going to have an aneurysm for how freaking often I hear this song at this point. Every time the radio had a chance, it played My Demons. And I'm like, we got to stop this. I'm seriously losing my freaking mind.
And what was even better was that we played the music off of my iPhone, and he just hit shuffle. He hit shuffle, and the first song that came up was
My mother demons.
That's why
Good Spencer right there.
I was yes, thank you. That's why I was
You're welcome.
this close. So, all right, let's wrap it up here.
Back on track, I guess, because your camera's dead. You're dead. You died.
We've already established that I'm not dead. I'm still
You're
very
dead.
much here.
Can the audience see you?
Yes, the audience can see me
Oh,
on
so I
YouTube.
can't.
You can.
Oh.
So that's why we just
unfortunate.
had this like derailed
see.
moment that I
see.
was gonna try to edit out, but instead you turned it into
I think
content.
it's a good segment. I think
Yeah.
it's a great segment, personally.
You pulled it off, and this is why I have you along for all these years. For the audio audience, that was Kyle driving a stick shift truck.
Yeah.
Because
Minivan,
oh, it
probably.
was a minivan. I
It
don't even
might have
think no, they don't make manual minivans.
Bet. I will
No.
buy one. Bet.
I I wish we brought back polls again. I would just say, do they make manual minivans?
Bet.
If we do Tampa again this year, which we are applying for, so hopefully we get in, we will bring that as one of the new poll questions. So Kyle, real quick, wrap it up.
Yep.
So we said day one, probably not.
No.
Year one, are you buying the Switch 2?
Me personally, or me as a global icon?
I don't think you're a global icon, right?
No,
We're
no,
only-
no. But okay, let me rephrase it. Me personally, in my current financial status, or me personally, or rather me globally, as maybe like a dichotomy of person.
I think as the average person, if you had a standard income of like it okay, let's just say like maybe 50,000. Let's just say like I don't know whether or not like that's considered like depending on where you're at, that's a little bit bigger than others or
Okay.
better than others. As a just an average Joe,
Yeah.
could you recommend the Switch 2 within their first year given the current state?
What are we at in our recording right now? What time?
Right now we're about over 40 minutes in.
No. No. Absolutely not. No, I would not recommend it. It would not be a savvy investment at this current time. I would wait. If you didn't have any other consoles, maybe. Maybe. But first, I would see how this even delivers. Because now this is the other thing. They can set the market now with these price increases in the games. How does the rest of everybody respond? Does Steam, for instance, respond by saying, all right, well, screw it. I guess that's the new price. We are going to include that. But let's also realize, what are the popular games nowadays on PC gaming? They're not big titles. I mean, yes, they try, but they don't really hit it. A lot of them that have been hitting it recently have been those smaller titles that go for like $10, $20. So
Blueprints right now is a $30 game, which is already getting Game of the Year nods. So you are right about that.
this is the problem, and this is the thing. So it depends entirely on what you have accessible to yourself. If you have a PC or a console, no, absolutely not. If you don't have anything, maybe. And that depends entirely on how desperate are you to say this has one title that I'm willing to spend on. Because I don't think that any of the titles they have right now, in my opinion, would be worth the investment. It's not that they're bad. And I will hopefully one day play Pokemon ZA or ZA. But am I willing to invest $400 plus the 80 plus whatever? Probably not. Not at this time. Not a year one. I would wait until I see how this thing actually performs. I would wait and see how the game prices stabilize. Obviously, barring political situations, which we're not going to get into, that also would influence it. But no, I would not at this point.
I agree with you on multiple things. First off, I can't recommend it either. As somebody who always waits for sales to buy games, I can't recommend it, especially if games are $80. One of the things you said, and it's a very good point, and I just want to echo it. If I have multiple consoles, I'm not recommending it because of the fact that like some of the things that were announced, like Elden Ring, Cyberpunk, like these were games that already are out. Like it shows me, by the way, that the Switch 2 is powerful enough to run these games.
You hope.
But at the same time, if I'm just your average console guy or average PC guy, I probably already have Cyberpunk and I probably already have Elden Ring because those are two very, very popular games. They announced Split Fiction, which, by the way, absolutely fantastic. We'll talk about that in a future episode. The stuff that is on multi-console, it's just like, whatever. Like, I thought it was funny that they... Wow, I just lost my voice, getting choked up. Obviously, I'm getting emotional talking about Nintendo. I thought it was funny that they were like, oh yeah, EA Sports FC. Wow.
You're struggling right now, buddy. I got you. I'm gonna filibuster. EA Sports. Yeah. Why are we? I mean, you can just play that on Xbox or PlayStation. I got you. Maybe.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going through puberty right now. Apparently,
Got you.
I thought it was funny that they're like, "Oh yeah, we're bringing EA Sports FC to the Switch." I'm like, that game has been recycled at least 3 times on the Switch to the point where IGN literally copy and paste the previous review. Like that's what they do as a joke because that's what it is essentially. But
A joke.
for the yeah, because they're not good games on the Switch.
Yeah,
And
I
so
mean,
I think right now I can't recommend it. The only good exclusives are the 3 that I mentioned before. Of course, also, Mario Kart World and all that, but I don't know if that's enough. And so for that, I can't recommend it, at least not right now. If they drive the price down, then I think that's when I'll start considering purchasing a Switch 2 in year 1. That's going to do it for us here on That Game Show. I'm apparently going to chug a whole bunch of water because my voice is just creaking and cracking like a prepubescent child. So I got to go fix that issue. You can follow me on Twitter at Chase Bunker. You can follow Kyle on Instagram at Scandinavian_sensations. Kyle also just dropped a new episode of Underratedly Unheard Of. Kyle, real quick, tell us about it.
all right, so this episode of Underrated Unheard Of, we actually have 2 coming out. Probably by the time this episode's published, we'll have the second one out. The most recent one here, American Cooking Simulator. Pretty much you live out your dream as a Wendy's employee with a gun. So you flip your burgers, so you make your burgers. Does anything make sense? Absolutely not. But it is a good game. I would check it out. It is currently free on Steam. The second one, a little bit of a teaser because it's not technically out yet.
Not yet.
Bakery Cafe Simulator. I said in the video, I was going to put down the simulators and switch over to a different game series. However, let's be real. How many of us have dreamt about running our own coffee shop or our own bakery? It's kind of just the normal person thing at some point in your life to do, to be like, what would it be like if I owned a coffee shop? So I did explore the scenario. It was fun. It was great. Check out that episode when it comes out. 2 good simulators. One's on demo right now, so it is very early access. Well done though. American Cooking Simulator is currently just free globally on Steam, so you can check it out. 2 solid games, 2 solid simulators, if you're into that kind of thing. So, some options for you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kyle. So go check that out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/thatgameshow. For Kyle Helmstetter, I'm Chase Bunker. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you all in the next episode.
Switch it up.
Nailed.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out more episodes on iTunes and on our YouTube page, youtube.com/thatgameshow. And follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/thatgameshow.